Howdy everyone, welcome to the second part of our 5-part video series on sustainable energy types. Today we're going to be going over both wind and geothermal energy.
All right, starting off with wind energy. Essentially, it is what it sounds like. It's harnessing wind to create power or electricity. Texas actually has the greatest wind power capacity in the nation at about 25%, followed by Iowa and Oklahoma. Wind energy has about 9.2% of nation's source of energy. And wind and solar are the fastest growing renewable energy sources. As you can see in the graph, wind is actually taking the cake. It's growing the fastest by far. So pros and cons of wind energy. The most obvious one being that it is renewable and does not emit pollution. There's a lot of opportunity for economic growth and jobs. It's a domestic resource, so economic opportunity there as well. It can benefit local communities, which we can't really get into right now. But in terms of disadvantages, ideal wind sites are often in remote locations, so that creates challenges for grid connection, installation. It can harm local wildlife, and it can actually produce noise as well, which can be disturbing to some living in those areas. So there may be some criticism you've heard of wind energy in terms of harming wildlife. So in general, is wind energy worthwhile? So if we take into consideration the impact on local wildlife of wind energy versus the impact on the environment of non-renewable energy, we can see that the carbon footprint of coal is about 90 times larger than that of wind. However, wind turbines in North America kill about 600,000 plus bats and over 140,000 birds a year. So what do you guys think? Do you think the disadvantages of wind and the harm of wind energy is worse than the opportunity it can provide?
All right, so moving on to geothermal energy. What actually is it? So geothermal is derived from the natural heat of the earth. It involves the heating and cooling of water and, of course, producing electricity. There are 3 primary subsects of geothermal energy, including dry steam, which involves taking steam directly from the ground to power a turbine, flash plants, which take high-pressure water from the earth and mix it with low-pressure water to create steam, which in turn drives a turbine. We'll get into a little bit later why flash plants are perhaps not as good long-term as dry steam and binary plants. And binary plants, which use hot water passed through a secondary fluid with a lower boiling point than water, which vaporizes the secondary fluid and powers a turbine. And binary plants are expected to be the most popular geothermal option going forward. Also, it ought to be noted that 10% of net US energy could be powered by geothermal if we use geothermal to its fullest capacity. So what about the feasibility of geothermal? Well, the advantages include the fact that it has very low carbon emissions, especially compared to some of those non-sustainable energy options. It's much cheaper than conventional energy options, and it has constant availability. The disadvantages include it is limited to areas near tectonic plate boundaries. So in the US, of course, that's mostly along the Rockies. Another disadvantage is the fact that the drilling aspect of geothermal is quite expensive, although overall the cost of geothermal is significantly lower than a lot of other options. It can also release hydrogen sulfide, which of course is a disadvantage, and it is not the most sustainable energy option among renewable energy options. So as you can see from the graphic on the bottom right, we can see that especially flash geothermal energy is not quite the most sustainable energy option amongst other options that we've gone over so far, like hydrothermal, wind, nuclear, solar. All of these options are better than geothermal in terms of flash energy. However, it is significantly better, as you can see, than coal and natural gas. So it is not the worst in terms of sustainability. So how is it actually sustainable? It is considered a renewable energy source because heat is continuously produced inside the earth. So we're not consuming any resource that is being consumed faster than it's being produced. While it is technically the least sustainable energy source among sustainable energy sources from an article that the University of Michigan published, particularly the flash plant subsection, it is still far preferable to non-renewable energy types, as we can see from the graph from the last slide, going back. coal produces so much more, so many more grams of carbon dioxide than even the worst type of geothermal flash does.
All right, so next time we're going to be talking about hydroelectric energy and biofuel. The code word for this presentation is turbine, and you can submit these keywords to the Office of Sustainability throughout the month. All right, thank you so much for listening.